Now, for more on this entire case, I want to bring into the conversation now LiveNOW friend, legal affairs journalist, Meghann Cuniff. Meghann, great to see you again. Happy New Year. This was a bombshell because this list has been expected. I mean, a lot of people are thinking of very high-profile names on this list. I mean, most notably Bill Clinton, but we're waiting to see who else is kind of going to be implicated in this entire case. And I know that you've been combing through that court document.
Yeah, right now there are a lot of documents to comb through. There were 40 exhibits attached and unsealed, and these are various items that have been sealed by the court over the years, and that some attorneys, actually for the Miami Herald, Julie Brown, who was responsible for really breaking the Epstein story, the attorneys at the Herald have been working to get these unsealed, and we're finally getting the first batch tonight. There should be more coming later, and the big takeaway on this was I saw that there were no huge bombshell revelations in the first batch, but the big thing is just to see all these documents at once and to actually have the official court language of some of the reporting that we've heard over the years. My understanding is that a lot of this stuff, a lot of the names in there aren't new, but just seeing them in context and seeing them in the depositions. The depositions especially, I think, are being really combed through right now because you've got previously sealed depositions for Maxwell, and then also Virginia, the woman who had settled with Prince Andrew and was really instrumental in the case. Her deposition has been unsealed, and there's quite a few people named in there. Maxwell herself named some people, and Virginia named some people too. But I mean, we have Trump, we have Bill Clinton mentioned in there. There's something in there from a former employee and a victim of Epstein's who talks about how he would say, we'll just call Trump and we'll go to one of his casinos. But then later in the deposition, she's point blank asked if she'd ever given a massage to Trump, and she says no. So there are revelations like that people are looking at and just kind of combing through for any names and any context to these documents. But my understanding is there's more to come, and I think the real trick with this is there's so much material to look at, and part of it would involve somebody with a lot of institutional knowledge about the case, because there's so much in there that is surprising or seems new if you don't know the history of it. And I think that reporters who've been covering this for a long time are going to be able to provide a lot of context over the next few days about some of the new things that we're seeing and where it fits in with the reporting that we already know about. And like right here, we're seeing an excerpt from the deposition of one of Epstein's former employees. She sometimes worked for him, and she was a victim. And this is part of what was unsealed, her entire 179-page transcript of a May 2016 deposition. And this is where she says, oh, Jeffrey said, great, we'll call up Trump and we'll go to, she says, I don't recall the name of the casino, but we'll go to the casino. But then, of course, later on, when, you click it through the transcript and read through it, this is the transcript where she says she didn't give Trump a massage. So there's just a lot to sort through. And like I said, I don't think a lot of it is new, at least what's come out tonight, but the format is new, and we're seeing it in a much more complete fashion altogether like this.
That's an interesting point that you make there, Meghann, because I think that a lot of us, when we're combing through these documents, like you said, it's a lot. We're talking pages and pages and pages of just so many excerpts that we have to see to kind of point out what's the big breaker in it. A lot of things that people kind of already know, but a lot of people are still interested in. You put up a tweet here that shows that the webpage actually that had released these court documents, it actually crashed. I'm assuming because so many people were online trying to be the first to see exactly what's being hidden, because there's an entire conspiracy almost behind this trial with Jeffrey Epstein and this elite group of people that kind of run countries, and they have all this money, and how this all ties in together. And what you mentioned, that even though we know a lot of the case so far, seeing it in the context of those court papers and that legal language is what makes it that much more impactful for you particularly. Is there something that stood out, perhaps that maybe a normal person reading these court documents may have missed?
I think just being able to read the depositions and really get through all the details on that, I think is remarkable. And for me, just to see all of it and to be able to sort through it and see it yourself is always is always great. But the reporters who've been covering this and kind of been there since day one, I'm looking forward to what Julie Brown is going to be able to do on this. And I really think the valuable reporting is going to come in the next few days from some people who are really able to sort through everything and compare it to what we already know and say, here's exactly what we know. Because even the reporting on this, when we talk about how, oh, there's an Epstein list, the list is finally being unsealed. It gives such a false impression of what actually happened in this Southern District of New York case, and what these documents are, why they were sealed, and how they're becoming unsealed. And then also the sheer amount of work that reporters in newsrooms and in their home offices are doing right now to dig through those documents, figure out what's in there, and put it all together into a story. It's really kind of a Herculean task for an audience that is so hungry for sound bites and quick TikTok videos, that I've seen some pleas and calls on social media for people to please not just believe whatever TikTok video they see about the Epstein list, quote unquote.
Yeah, that's like a warning that we've seen with a lot of these big high profile cases, because you edit a TikTok video and it's kind of going to show whatever you want it to show. It's not really the unbiased fact, so to speak. Something to talk about a bit is, just because a name is almost mentioned in these court documents, it doesn't necessarily mean they did something illegal. I think that a lot of people, they hear that a name was involved, it's on that list, and all of a sudden they were also part of this illegal activity that brought Epstein down in the first place. What are the kind of things that courts are going to have to prove that regarding these people named, that they were part of illegal activity?
Exactly. And right now, I don't think there's a risk that the people who are having their names unveiled are actually under criminal investigation or facing anything like that. Because, of course, while these are sealed from the public, authorities would have had access to this information over the years. So I don't think we're looking at any possible, criminal exposure here. But the big thing for people is just kind of trying to figure out where do they all fit in on this, and what was the relationship to Epstein? Because the document, the order that actually unsealed this, the judge went through each anonymous person, each J. Doe, Jane or John Doe, and talked about the reasons that their information should be unsealed. And when you go through the document, a lot of the entries have things like, this information is already public, this information has already been reported by the media, this information is not salacious in any manner. I mean, it kind of takes the pizzazz and the excitement out of the internet conspiracy era, but it just shows that there's really a lot of in-depth reporting to do here on this list. And I think, and like I said, I think we'll be seeing a lot of great contextual reporting in the next few days on it.
That's something really important to mention, though, Meghann, and I'm glad that you bring it up here. It's almost a sensationalism. Like, I know that so many people tracking the story, it's because of this conspiracy behind it. And, oh, whoa, so crazy. And what are we going to find out? But at the same time, it takes that time to really break it down and get those facts straight until we know exactly what went down and who was implicated and who is going to pay the price for those victims. Meghann, while I have you on the line here, I do want to get to an update from earlier today. We had talked about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Tom Girardi. He's the husband of Erica Jane, for anyone who is not familiar with the show, but also very prominent, successful, albeit lawyer in Los Angeles. And he is under investigation in an embezzlement case where he embezzled millions of dollars from these victims in a victim fund. Meghann, correct me if I'm wrong, but the victims, their families, from people that died in a plane crash. They were supposed to receive a certain amount of money, and allegedly Tom embezzled millions from that fund. Well, earlier this week, a judge ruled that he was competent to stand trial. Now, go ahead and break this down, because we have been waiting for this ruling for weeks now.
We have. Judge Staten in Los Angeles held a hearing in the summer, August and September. She heard testimony from experts on both sides. prosecution experts who said he's competent to stand trial, defense experts who said that he's not. And he actually has two cases right now: the plane crash theft and the embezzlement theft that he's charged with regarding the plane crash is in Chicago federal court, and then this is a Los Angeles federal court case where he's charged with stealing from other clients. And and what's significant about Judge Staten's ruling is that it won't affect the Chicago case. The judge in Chicago is going to make her own determination regarding his ability to stand trial. I think a lot of people think that Judge Staten's ruling is going to guide her on this, but we still have another competency decision that's going to come down on this, but with Girardi. But what this definitely means is that we are looking at a trial in Los Angeles on the client theft charges, and I think a lot of people, especially in the Los Angeles legal community, are glad about that because he was such a prominent figure in LA. And the idea of him being charged in Chicago, of course, makes sense because there was conduct there. But I think everybody in LA and especially the LA legal community would want him tried in California first because he's, that's his hometown. And his conduct was such a big deal to the LA bar and really affected the California State Bar.
I do want to bring up this tweet from TMZ here that kind of was the nail in the coffin, so to speak, for Girardi. It says here, the estranged husband of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Erica Jane, accused of embezzling millions of dollars from clients, reportedly swore under his breath at prosecution, which they took as proof he understood the situation. Now, for our viewers that have not been following this case, we know but it was kind of scandalous how he made this outburst there in court. And I kind of thought maybe they would rule like, well, he is incompetent because he would say that. But go ahead, Meghann, and detail this entire scenario for our viewers.
Yeah, so this was during the hearing, and it was soft enough that was sitting in the gallery. I didn't hear it, and neither did a couple other reporters who were in the courtroom. But the prosecutor who was at the lectern heard it, and he actually stopped his questioning of the witness and said, "I want the record to reflect that the defendant just said F you to me." And he actually incorporated it into his questioning of the defense expert because he was questioning a defense expert who was opining that Tom Girardi had severe dementia and Alzheimer's and wouldn't be able to participate in a trial or understand the case against him. So the prosecutor's questions to her were, does this show an understanding of what's going on? Just the fact that he's able to trace the questioning and look at the prosecutor and say that. And they really made that case in their final written brief too. They said that just the fact that he thought to say it under his breath, Tom Girardi did, shows that he understood courtroom etiquette and decor enough that he should be able to understand the proceedings against him. So Judge Staten's ruling right now is sealed because there's so much medical information that's being discussed in here. She issued the docket order, and of course the attorneys all have an unsealed version of the order, and they're going through right now and going to tell her what they think should be sealed, and she'll make a final determination on what's redacted and what's not. But I expect next week we're going to get the actual ruling where the judge explains why she believes he's competent to stand trial. So there should be a lot more to discuss and read there for sure.
Speaking about his medical condition, you kind of look at this photo that we have here, courtesy of the New York Post, and you see Tom Girardi here on the left, a picture that came out recently, and then there at the bottom right, him with Erica Jane from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. He looks so different that it was a big question for a lot of people on their minds as to whether dementia was playing a part, because, on the outside, in the aspect, you could almost believe this sort of argument going into this trial.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard for me to seeing him in person that anybody could say there wasn't something wrong with him. I mean, clearly he is being affected by old age, by the typical mental conditions or the mental decline that might come with old age. And it was just a question of how do you determine the line between what's natural with him and what might be an exaggeration? Because I don't think anyone would actually say that if he wanted to, he could just go back to being the Tom that you see in the photo there with Erica. But the prosecutors were saying that's not the standard for being held to trial, that he can have dementia and he can have these these beginning stages of Alzheimer's disease and still be competent to stand trial. And it sounds like the judge agreed.
It almost makes you appreciate the entire process even more, because these are difficult things to have to rule on and come to that certain decision, especially so many factors to take into account. Before I let you go, Meghann, I know that a lot of people, I mean, Erica Jane is really the famous one in this couple. So for anyone that is interested, how may she be implicated in this case going forward?
She's not charged with a crime, but she is being sued by actually Jay Edelson, who is Girardi's co-counsel in the Chicago plane crash case. And Jay is actually the one who first brought the theft of money to the judge's attention in Chicago and really led to Tom Girardi's downfall. He has filed a federal lawsuit, and it's in California, against Girardi, his firm, a lot of people and employees who worked with him. And Erica is a defendant in that lawsuit. It's a racketeering, organized crime case against her, actually. And it's on hold because it's a civil case, and they're going to let Tom Girardi deal with the criminal case first. But once the criminal case is resolved, that civil case is going to pick up. And I think that is where Erica faces some significant exposure.
Meghann Cuniff, always a pleasure having you here at Live Now from Fox. And make sure, everyone, you can follow her reporting and all of the cases she's keeping up with at legalaffairsandtrials.com. Meghann, I'll be speaking with you soon, because there's so many things to touch on here in this new year. Thank you so much.